First of all, I wanted to thank you, Tuan, Mr. Tuan. Maybe I said the name right.
Yes, sir.
So I asked him how to say the name right. So he was communicating with me all this time. So very glad to be here. And I'm afraid that I'm going to electrocute because I never had this many buttons on me. So everything is recording. So did you all have a good lunch?
Yes.
Good. All right, it's time to take a nap then. Before we start, I'm going to guide you through a short meditation. Actually, you can take a little nap. It will be a few minutes, but do not take a nap. So if you feel like you're going to fall asleep, make sure you open your eyes, and shake your head, something. Because what we are going to talk about today, it will be very important for all of you, because this is something that will be changing not only the life of your understanding, but it will change many that is going to come contact with you in the future. That will change a lot of others too. So it is important that don't think about you are doing this for someone else. Think as something that you are doing it for yourself. Because once you truly understand what you're doing it for yourself, it will definitely going to help others. So let's take a moment to meditate for a short time. Find yourself with a comfortable posture and try to keep your back straight as much as possible. And take a few deep, long breaths. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. And do it few times to relax your body and relax your mind. Try to observe your body from top of your head to the tips of your toes to make sure your whole body is relaxed. And you can gently close your eyes if you like. You will have less distractions. Now your focus is on your breath as you breathe in and out. Now if you can bring your attention from your breath to your heart, the center of your chest. Bring your attention to your center of your chest and breathe in and out a few times. Breathe into your heart and breathe out. And while you're breathing into your heart, think to yourself, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, Now send your loving and kind thoughts towards everyone in this room. People sitting right next to you, sitting in front of you, behind you, next to you, sitting left to you, right to you, everybody in this room. Some maybe you know closely, some may you not know, some may you get to know. And think about them in loving and kind ways, because we all are here with the same goal, to understand about ourselves, to understand how to help others, which is a wonderful intention to have. Send your loving and kind thoughts towards others, thinking thus: may all of you be well, may all of you be happy, may all of you be peaceful. May all of you be well. May all of you be happy. May all of you be peaceful. Now I want you to imagine somebody in your life that you love the most, that you care the most, whoever it is. Think about this person or people that you love the most. Think about them for a short time. I'm sure your mind is going to fill with good memories, fun things that you are doing. And if you can pay attention to the emotional feelings that you are experiencing when you think about them. If you bring your awareness to your heart, you can feel that feelings. This is the true loving kindness that we should feel towards ourselves and towards others. That's the true practice of loving kindness. With that loving heart, if you can send your loving and kind thoughts towards all living beings, human beings, non-human beings, there are so many people in the world that is struggling, suffering. If we can send our loving and kind thoughts towards them, think with intention. May all living beings be well, be happy, be peaceful. May all living beings be well, be happy, be peaceful. May all living beings be well, be happy, be peaceful. May peace be with you all. May no harm come to you. May no difficulties come to you. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. And thank you very much. And you can open your eyes. Okay. I hope nobody slept for a short time. Good. Today, I'm as my understanding, you all are here to learn a tiny bit of understanding of how to become a good teacher, of teaching others of our understanding, right? And here that I make these flyers, I'm not really good at in computer, but I did my best to present this. This is the most important thing when it comes to teachings. Because if you think about, as you all know, we are Buddhist, that the Lord Buddha, he started teaching. When did he start teaching? After enlightenment, right? So it was 6 years of full-time research. Imagine, it's 6 years of full-time, no breaks, nothing. It's a full times of research that he found out. This ultimate teachings of what we are practicing after 2,600 years later. Even when he understood this, at the very beginning, he even questioned himself that if people can understand these teachings, he was in doubt. But then, the story says, this a God or living being that approached the Buddha and then told him that no, there will be people to understand this, and out of compassion teach them. That's the story. But I believe this is in his own mind of his own questionings, because in a way he understood the difficulty that he went through to understand this. At the same time that he has this compassion and love for other beings, that he wants to teach this to others. But the very first thing that you have to understand in our Buddhist teachings, that we know and believe that we all have a Buddha qualities in us, right? But we are part-time Buddhas. We all are part-time, because you meditate, you learn, you practice this practice as a part-time. Your full-time is you have your house, you have your children, studies, and all these things you have. Meditation and practice comes as something that's part of it, right? But one thing that you have to understand, if you expect full-time benefits working as a part-time job, that's not fair, does it? So when it comes to the practice also, one thing that you have to understand, when you don't put full-time effort into understanding practice, and then you go through something difficult and you expect to have a full-time result, what is the wrong, what is the miss here? Is that you're not getting the result, or your expectations of having the result, not working full-time? Is the expectations of wanting to have this full result of not putting enough work, isn't it? So the first thing is to understand the amount of effort that you put into understanding the teachings. That's the amount of understanding that you are going to achieve. No need to blame no one. No need to blame the teachings, the way the teachings are happening. It's just that we take the responsibility into our hand. Am I putting enough effort into this understanding these teachings? That's the very first thing to understand. When it comes to the Buddhist teachings, the biggest thing, now this is something that you can practice in this moment, your honesty. Your honesty comes in many shapes and forms. Now when you feel sleepy, I'm sure some of you will feel sleepy now. This is a practice your honesty. When you feel sleepy, I can see a couple of them already snoring. When you feel sleepy, can you awake your mind to being honest, that I want to listen to this, I want to understand this? Because this is a part of there are a couple of distractions when it comes to the practice of understanding. One is laziness. Laziness is not like, like people say, like, how can I be lazy? I do my gardening, I do all the work and I'm doing this and this. I'm not lazy. But when you come to practice, you can become lazy. You can become lazy, but if you understand why that feelings arise, when you meditate, there is a physical change that happens in your brain, in your mind, which is called your parasympathetic nerve system. This is why soon after you close your eyes, try to meditate, you fall asleep. Because when your parasympathetic nerve system activates, what we call, usually when we are awake, our fight, flight or freeze response is active, right? But when your mind gets really quiet, in a meditative mind, state of mind, this parasympathetic nerve system starts to activate, that makes your body so relaxed. And the person is not aware of this. Think, oh yeah, I'm relaxed. Usually I can't sleep, but here I'm start to meditate, I'm falling asleep now. So now I can sleep, right? You came to meditate, but you end up sleeping. Sometimes people ask me after meditation, Bhante, I fell asleep during the practice. Is that a good thing? I say yes. Only if you came to sleep. If you came to meditate, if you slept, that's not a good thing. So just this is about something about your practice. That's why the honesty of the practice is very important. These are different subtle things, but even these subtle things, if you pay attention to that, am I awake? Am I doing this honestly? Am I listening this to try to understand? This is the most important thing. Because when it comes to the teachings of Dharma, that's why it says, understand yourself first. That's why Buddha practiced for 6 years. Once he finished his practice, he started teaching. But our job is quite difficult because we aren't enlightened. I am enlightened neither, but I am teaching, right? Our teaching is quite difficult because while we are learning, we are teaching. And then while we are working and all these things that you are doing, while you are doing something else, right? That credit has to go to yourself. Because while you're doing all these things, taking care of kids, doing school work, doing all these other works at the same time, because of you want to do this work and you're putting effort while you're doing all that, is still try to do something good to ourselves, something good for others. This is the first thing that you have to give credit to yourself. This is what we call self-love. Oftentimes, let's say if somebody come in front of you, even if they wear ugly clothes, you will not say like, oh, your clothes look ugly. You don't say it, do you? And somebody comes in front of you and you won't say like, oh man, you probably need to lose a couple of pounds. You won't say that, do you? But you go in front of the mirror and you talk to yourself that way. That's how we talk to ourselves. We judge ourselves, we criticize ourselves in a way that we do not criticize and judge and say things to others. It's not necessarily the words that you put it out, it's just the way your mind, that is your thoughts, that talking to yourself. This is the very fundamental thing that we have to understand. When you truly build this loving kindness within oneself, that's the most important thing. Because life is not supposed to be easy. If you think that you meditate sitting on a couch, sitting in a cushion, and your life is going to be easier, and you misunderstood. Because we are dealing with something, what we call mind. There are 84,000 teachings of Buddhist teachings. 84,000, all these teachings talking about the mind. Why it is talking about so many different ways about mind? It's not talking about how to get your six packs and how to get rid of the wrinkles and get rid of the gray hair and all this. It doesn't talk about none of those. It talks about the mind. The oneself would wonder why this many teachings about the mind, because the mind is the fundamental, the main focus of our suffering and our happiness. That's why understanding mind is so important. Very first thing that you have to understand, there is somebody, the mind is not going to work the way you like it. That you have to understand first. There is this gentleman once came to this meditation teacher and said, "Sir, can you teach me how to meditate?" And the monk said, "Very easy. Just go to that room right there and do not think about monkeys. That's all you have to do." And he went there, sat down. Man, he tried to not to think about monkeys. All he can think about monkeys. So many different kinds of monkeys. And he came to the teacher and he was so mad and he said, "I do not like your monkey meditation. Give me something else." And then he said, "Okay, that's easier. Just go to that room and now think about monkeys." And he went there, he was trying to think about monkeys. There are no monkeys. This is how the mind works. The moment that you tell your mind to do something, it always do the opposite of it. But our nature is, because it does this opposite of it, we always get mad at the mind, not the matter. Because one thing, the mind is not there here to make us happy. What is the mind is here for us? Mind is here for us to survive. In fact, mind is here to drive us nuts. In a simple terms. Because we are no different than any other living beings. Let's think about, we are not the fastest living beings, are we? Cheetah, if you think about the other animal, we are not fast. We are not the strongest. If you think about the elephant or rhino or the other animal, we are not the strongest. We are definitely not the cutest. If you think about like a sea otter or something like that, they are so much cuter than us. What makes us different is what lays in here, our brain. That's the only difference. But the mind of these thinking faculties is there for us to survive, because if you see, when the animal feels threatened in a way, if they have good legs, they will run away. If not, if they feel like the other attacker is smaller than them, they will attack back, right? And we are doing the same thing, because whenever we feel threatened, in a way that we condition our mind to understand, if somebody said this word that is threatening to me, how we learn to respond to that with anger, or in a sort of way of anger, or in a way that we learn, however you learn, that in a long period of time we condition our mind to react to that particular way. And that's no different. That's because our mind taking this message, saying like, okay, this is my survival method. I feel like I'm threatened, I'm attacking, and I have to protect myself. And now you have protect yourself in a way when somebody yell at you with 120 frequency, what do? You have to yell at least 150 frequency to beat that, right? Because that's how people yell at each other louder, and it gets louder and louder. Because that's how we learn. But the good thing is, the animals does not have this ability, but we have this ability to change that. This is what we call in neuroscience, what we call neuroplasticity. I'm sure most of you are familiar with these terms, neuroplasticity, because we are able to change the pathways of our brain, how we react to things. In order to do that, we have to pay more attention to our inner world, pay all focus into inward, not outward. When we pay attention to inward, oftentimes we are stopped depending on the outside object to change our peace of mind, change our happiness, and we depend on that changing within us. This is what the meditation is. Because when it comes to our mind, what we have a diamond mind and a demon mind. The demon mind is what we call all these we call negative emotions and feelings that we have. But do you know that when it comes to teachings of Buddhist teachings, sometimes people say, we lot the time we're talking about the suffering is so pessimistic, right? But you know the suffering is the blessing. You know the suffering is the blessing to understand ourselves. Whenever you are happy, let's say you are happy, really happy, do you just think about somewhere and thinking like, oh man, I'm so happy, why am I happy? Do you think about that? No. But when you're upset with something, you think about all the different avenues of why am I not happy today, right? Because why you're thinking about? Because you are so uncomfortable of these feelings of suffering. Because of this uncomfortable nature of suffering, we started to investigate. That's why the suffering is a blessing. Because when we are not suffering or not going through a difficult, don't take the word of suffering. Suffering, the word has a really negative. But if you think about the notion of, forget about the notion of suffering, but if you think about the sensation of that feelings, whenever you feel this, you started to question. That's why even Buddha, right, in Siddhartha, he left the house after he saw this the dead body and the ill person and all this. He went after seeing this suffering, right? But in 29 years he was at home. He had everything. He had different palaces to go when it's cold. He can go to a warm place, and he had all that, right? During that 29 years, he didn't think about it. But he only thought about the suffering whenever he noticed the suffering. And then he left. See how the suffering can be a blessing? Because oftentimes, when we are not experiencing unpleasantness, we are unconscious. See, you are just go with the flow. The moment the unpleasantness experience, then you become conscious. And I start asking questions. Why am I feeling this? What is going on? Right? And then here comes, you can blame the rest of the world, right? Because of my wife, because of my kids. Oh, it's my mom and dad. It could be somebody but me. And then we get rid of it. When you do this, what happens? We start enjoy suffering. How you enjoy suffering? Don't you think you enjoy suffering? I think we all do enjoy suffering. If you don't enjoy suffering, one unpleasant experience you only experience once. Have you experienced the same thing over and over many times? Fight with husband and wife and kids and brothers and sisters. It's the same thing over and over. And why you keep doing? Because you enjoy it. Right? That's why I say you enjoy suffering. You enjoy suffering because you haven't investigated that suffering, that unpleasant experience. Enough experience or enough investigation has not done. What you done is to distract yourself. You distract yourself from that experience to do something else. And for the moment, from the surface, it will disappear. And then, when the condition is right, it will come back to you. And we are going on this circle. Because we are not mindful to investigate when it happened. I tell you one story. Lately somebody called me. He has an 11-year-old son. He had got really mad at him. And he had yelled at him. And then he felt really bad after. And he called me. And he said, Bhante, I really am not happy with myself for yelling at him. And I keep doing this over and over. And I say, okay, you yell at him. What did you do after? Oh, we went to Pizza Hut. He took the kids to Pizza Hut after he yelling at him. I said, now what? We are okay. And I said, that's the problem. Now, because you just distract yourself, but you never investigate of yelling, why that happened. The meditation and teaching is to go deep to investigate. And I said, go back to the situation. I said, why did you yell at him? He said, my kid is not working right the way he's supposed to. And I went back to my childhood. I had a really difficult childhood. I do not want my kids to go through the same experience that I went through. When you look at from the surface, his intention is good, isn't it? The father's intention is good, right? But look at, because of his lack of understanding, he project his past, he project to his kid's future. This is something not happening, he projecting. Because of this projection, he won't see what is happening in this present moment. And his projection sees something that is going to happen. That creates the chaos because of not seeing it. And if you see, then I told him, your intention is good. You have a fear. If you go deep into that, what that whole idea brings is a fear of failing. The fear that we all have in a different ways and different forms of, that is what we all experience, the fear of failure, right? We all, who wants to lose? Who go into the game saying like, I'm going to go play today, I want to be second place? Who go to the game to play like that? Nobody does, right? Everybody wants to win. Everybody does that. Even in life, everybody wants to win. But then here comes, sometime in life we lose. Because the life is not, even though we like to be these perfect beings, but life is always goes like a stock market. It's up and down. It never goes on a straight line. If you're one of those that never goes an up and down, if you say like, I never have this up and down, I'm just straight line. Either you are enlightened or there is something wrong with you. If you say that I don't have ups and downs, and if you say to somebody and they're going to come take you to a lab and do all the investigations on your brain to see like what's wrong with this person. Because the life is supposed to be going in up and down. That's what it is. The outside conditions are very difficult for us to change. But we can, there is a Pali word called dukkha domanassa. When it comes to English terms, you can call it a pain and suffering. Pain is something that we are all subject to. Suffering is optional. Do you agree with me or not?
Yes.
Yes. Because there are eight worldly conditions, what we call. It's called pain and pleasure, gain and loss, right? Blame and praises, like these things. We all subject to these things. But that pain we cannot avoid. The physical pain, getting old, nobody wants to get old. Only you want to get old when you're young. You want to get 18 right away, 21, and after 30 you want to be a little slower, right? Young when you want to go fast, then you won't slow down. It won't happen. But then how can we adjust? That is part of the life. But the suffering is something that because of our lack of understanding, that we all have this idea of this is how I want it to be, but then the world does not happen the way I want it to be, and here comes my suffering. That's why the suffering is optional. So understanding all these things, as I mentioned, called what? Diamond mind and demon mind. Whatever the thought that arises in your mind, whatever the situation is, that you are not responsible for the arising of thought. When you have let's say you have this angry thought or mad or something, the sensual pressure, whatever it is, that thought arises. You're not responsible for that thought. But you are responsible for reaction to that thought. Because the thought arises in your mind based on the condition which is there. What we have done, which is what we call luminous conditioned mind. I tell you how we condition our mind. I had a 4-year-old when I was in Sri Lanka last year. And he came to me with his mom and dad. He said, do you know something? I said, what? Because when I go to Sri Lanka, I take a lot of candy. Every kid comes, I give a couple of candies, They come to me and tell me stories. And he said, do you know what? I said, what? My mom and dad caught a mouse yesterday. And I can see the face of the parents get red, because they are so embarrassed. This kid telling, they caught a mouse yesterday and they put him in a bag and throw him to the forest. The kids told me. And I can see the mom and dad like so embarrassed in front of me. Now what they do when they go home and they're going to tell the kid, you don't talk to monks like this, you don't tell like this. This is the very first seed that they are putting in their brain, this kid's brain, how to manipulate and how to lie. Because the kids don't lie. They see the things and they express the same way. Because I remember I have a nephew who is 4 years old, and before we went somewhere, and then he said, when you go there, they will ask you if you want to eat, and you tell them like, we already had dinner. We didn't have dinner, but my brother is telling him, tell him we had dinner. And when we went there and said, do you guys want to eat something? And the kid said, no, Dad said tell him we already ate. This is the kid, you know. Then the elder one is 11 years old. He's like this because now he know how to lie, and he know the brother lied, right? So this is the Buddha said that our mind is luminous when we born. But we keep adding this into our mind. And this is the very first seed that you plant in his head to manipulate, how to lie, right? But it doesn't look bad though. The way it doesn't look bad, but the seed is seed. Because the mind, that's why the mind does not have, mind is a mechanical concept. The brain is a mechanical concept. When you add something into this computer, no matter what you add, if it's a good picture or bad picture, it's going to show up in the screen, right? The computer doesn't know if this is a bad picture or good picture. Because I even give this, what is it called, the pen drive? I didn't have one. I gave it to one of the Sangha members. I say, if you have any bad pictures, you take it out because I don't know how to use this. I don't want to go open this thing and show up some bad pictures that you have it here. I told him, and only at these, you know. So the computer does not know. The brain also the same, because when you put the seeds in there, that is the manifestations that is coming from the seeds is there. This is why putting the right seeds in our mind is important. When you put these seeds and when you nurture these seeds, they are starting to manifest. And with your knowing or unknowing, throughout our lifetime, we have accumulated these ideas and thoughts in our mind. And that's who we are. Once we started to learn Dharma, we started to teach Dharma, this is what we call the demon mind, and we try to transfer this mind into a diamond mind. That transfer into a diamond mind is something that you cannot do it just by teaching. You have to be an example. That's the number one thing. The reason I tell you all these things, forget about teaching others. Forget about teaching others. Learn this first yourself. Because your practice and you should not be two. Your practice and you should be one. Because then it comes like, okay, you guys have this light blue clothes. I put these clothes, now I am practice. Now I can't say the bad words, I have to behave this way, As soon after you take this out, what? Now I can be myself. If you think that way, that's wrong. Because your practice and you should not be two. Your practice has to be you. But don't make it so difficult for yourself that when I'm practice, I have to be this self, when I'm not, this is myself. Because practice should not be that. Because that's why having at the very beginning, I said your foundation is loving kindness. Loving kindness for yourself. Because the understanding the amount of effort that you are putting into this, and then at the same time understand that you have this mind as has a nature of driving you crazy, and then you are working on to turn this into a diamond mind. You are working on that. The most important thing, that's why I said your honesty is the number one thing. Once you know that you are putting in this effort for yourself, no matter what the rest of the world says. That's why your honesty is the number one thing when it comes to a practice. Buddha said, we all are doctors. We all are doctors, surgeons, because we know what is going on with us. Sometimes it is not easy to explain to others. Why am I telling you all these things? when you come to teaching, teaching is a difficult thing to do. When it comes to especially spiritual teaching, is a difficult thing to do. In these teachings, one particular thing that you need the most is compassion and love for the people that you teach. Because if you have a difficulty of understanding and sitting and meditating, imagine the other people have the same difficulty. And when you understand that, it will build you a love and compassion for the others and try to give the best possible way for your teachings. Sometimes you have to tell the people same thing over and over and over. I've been a monk for 36 years. Some people ask me same question in many different ways. It's the same question. Because we like to name things, right? You say, Bhante, I'm not mad at my mom anymore, but I don't like her. She's still mad, but she put it in a different words, right? So I say, you're still mad. The first thing is you have to accept that you are struggling with this anger, your madness, you're struggling with it. Understand that. That's okay. I'm working on it, right? Let's say that the reason I say you are a surgeon, if you go to a hospital, let's say you have a tumor, the doctor never gets mad at your tumor, does he? He says, like, oh, this tumor, I'm so mad at this tumor. He won't do that. He will pay attention to you, he will have a compassion for you, and he will gradually, gently take care of the tumor. But this is, we are also surgeons, but we get mad at the tumor. Tumor is the emotional feelings that you are experiencing, something that you don't like, something that you try to overcome. When this experience arises, what you do, you get mad at that. The madness is not going to help. This is called, in Buddhist teaching, is called 2 arrow symptoms. The first arrow is the experience of it, right? And then you start to get mad at, not happy with your own self. Thus, you let the second arrow hit you. Now what? It's the arising of anger is an emotion, isn't it? Soon after this arising of anger arises, what you do? You identify yourself with the anger. Now what? I am angry. It was an emotion of anger, emotion of sadness, emotion of anxiety, and soon after this arises, you take it as mine. This is the beginning of the problem, because now I am anxious, I am mad, I am sad. It was something outside before. That's why in the teaching is said, if you can see the emotion as an outside object without taking it as me, mine and mine, then it will give you lots of opportunity to practice your own practice without taking it personally. Now you only have one arrow because of these emotions, but because of lack of understanding, we let the second arrow hit us. Now is mine. It becomes something that I have to deal with it. So this understanding is so important when it comes to the practice. Once you have this understanding, that's why it says you cannot save someone from drowning if you don't know how to swim. First of all, you have to understand these teachings by yourself, in your heart, not just by the books, because books you can explain to anybody, right? You can Google all these things and you can find these things. But giving it from your heart is the most important. That's why oneself is understanding the teachings is so important. Forget about teaching to someone else. This is how we brought up for 5-6 years. We have to learn first the chanting, the teachings. We have to learn, and then once we learn, we have to teach that to my teacher, and go in front of my teacher and tell him. And this. So that's why it is so important to understand yourself first. Does anybody have any questions regarding this part? No. Okay, let's go to the second part. This is also, as I mentioned before, teaching others is not an easy thing. Number one is this is all about, when it comes to the teachings, it's all about you. Do not think about it as an outside thing. It's all about you. This is all talking about the teaching. That's why I said that teaching and you and the practice, there are no two things, no three things. It's one particular thing. It says, I will speak the Dharma in a gradual ways. Sometimes when you talk to somebody, we have this so much of ideas. Somebody come to you and asking you questions. Sometimes you have to understand the person. Sometimes you cannot put everything into that. You have to be gradual. You have to understand their mindset. Listen. One thing that I realized in my 36 years as a monk, when people come to ask you questions, oftentimes in their question they have an answer. If you're really mindful and listen to somebody, I have never met somebody that never have an answer in the question. Isn't that funny? If you really carefully listen to the person, you will always see the answer in that question. So listen carefully and reach out in a gradual way. And the other thing is, I will speak with the goal in mind. Understand your goal is always to help others. It's not about yourself, it's helping others. And the other thing is, I will speak with kindness. Sometimes teaching is not easy. Like I said, when you try to teach, some people have a different, I will talk about that in other sections of the ways that people understand. The kindness is more important. Sometimes you have to go out of your way to help others. This is something, teaching is not a job. It's something that that's something you're willing to do. The other thing is, I will not speak as a means of gain. This is one main important thing. When it comes to this spiritual path of teaching, sometimes the teachers have to gain this egoistic mind that I'm a teacher, I'm teaching, I'm this, and you're not here, I'm teaching you, in a way. That is, it has to be understood. And the other one is to understand, I will speak not to harm anyone. That you can understand. I'm not going to explain all these things. I just put it in for your understanding, but I will explain further into these. And the third one, this is very important. You have to understand the people, how they, because in the Buddha's time, now we have these many different ways and shapes that we can gain knowledge, right? You can read, you can Google it, you can YouTube, and you can watch and all that. In Buddha's days, we call Shravaka Sangha. People who listen to Buddha call Shravaka Sangha. Why is it called Shravaka Sangha? Because only way to learn is by listening. Back in the day, there was no writing. The writing came 80 years before Christ, 500 years after Buddha's death in Sri Lanka, and put it into writings. Before that, it's always listening. There are people who come to the Buddha, sometimes hear just a few words and they understood. Some people have come to the Buddha many, many years, couldn't understand. So we all have a different ability of understanding, different ways of understanding. If you work with kids, you know, some kids like to see with the drawings, some people can understand, right? We are the same. We have a different ways of, sometimes you can give hint to understand. And sometimes you have to give the whole sentence or whole details. Sometimes their own systematic instruction, whatever they are doing, whatever they try to overcome, and we can teach them by that. And the also habitual, in habitual way they can learn that also. And this is what is to understand yourself before you do the teachings. One who comprehends the meaning but is unable to explain clearly. One who is slow to comprehend the meaning but is able to explain it clearly. One who has both of these above qualities, and there are some who does not have either one of those qualities too, but they want to be a teachers, which is okay. But then, but you have to. This is why I said the number one thing is, when it comes to this, is honesty. That you have to understand. When I was a little monk, I used to listen to some of the Dharma talks 10 times. Because that's I cannot understand some of the things when I listen to it or read it very first time. I have to read over and over and over. And the funny thing is, when I read this 10 times, I have 10 different ways to understand this. This is what the teaching is. Because the teaching is always depend on the understanding, the wisdom that you have in that particular moment. This is where the comparison can harm you. I went to a Heartland Community College a few months back. When I went there, I met this young lady. She's only 21 years old. She had lost her parents when she was 9 years old, and she was taken care of by her grandparents, and her grandmother had died a few years after. I talk about something related to death and how to deal with death. When I share with this, and she cried, and she came to me, and I said the reason for her to crying, and she said she feels so much guilt because she couldn't able to do anything for her mom and dad, or she couldn't do any. They all have addiction problem. She could not do anything for grandma. Now he's studying about something related to addiction recovery. This is of a lack of understanding. She compare her understanding now as an educated child to her 9-year-old self. This is what we call, in Buddhist teachings, we call our lack of understanding, or ignorance we call. That's one of the particular things that talking about. When you come to the words of ignorance, and you could think like, how can be I'm ignorant, I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, I'm a school teacher, I'm not ignorant, right? Ignorance is not, that's why I said don't take the notion of the word. Ignorance is lack of understanding in that particular situation. Even though she's a well-educated young woman, her lack of understanding, just a tiny bit of lack of understanding, compare her 8-9-year-old self to her understanding as a 21-year-old. What I told her, I said, do not compare your 9-year-old self to now, because at 9-year-old you did not have this understanding. That's based on that understanding you make your decisions. Now you have a different understanding, right? So that's why even for yourself, even for myself, if I read something that I read 15 years ago, when I read the same thing, I may have a different understanding about it because of my wisdom today. So you have to understand yourself. Sometimes even our teachings, after a few years' time, we can change the way we say it. We can say like, hey, this is what I understood back then, but I understand this differently. That's okay, because we are continuously evolving, continuously keep changing. This is coming with your foundation of your love for yourself, foundation of your honesty. This is your foundation. And when you come to that, your ego go out of the door, because otherwise sometimes people have this idea, oh, this is what I told 5 years ago, I'm not going to change it. I'm going to stick with it. Even if you understood that, because that's your ego. So sometimes you can, and then understand, what is my understanding level? Do I understand this by just listen, or do I explain this in a proper way? And you have to pay attention to that. And then when you pay attention to that, you started to see the goods and the bad and the flows and up and down in your patterns of teachings, and that will help you to overcome this. So being honesty is the most important. This is for you to understand your teachings. Okay. This is one of the most important things. And how to answer questions. There are many different ways the Buddha has answered questions. One is someone should be answered directly and briefly. Sometimes people will ask you a question, it's very simple, right? Sometimes people ask Bhante, should I be vegetarian or can I eat meat? You know, it's something like this. Buddha never said to be a vegetarian. So whatever available, you don't kill, no harm others, but whatever available you can eat. It's just what it is. If you think about vegetarians are better than a non-vegetarian, if you think about that, Hitler is a vegetarian. So he wasn't any better than anyone else. Did you know that Hitler was a vegetarian? Yeah, he was a vegetarian. So, and the others should be answered by the way of analyzing them. Sometimes people ask you questions, you can go back to, and like how I asked this gentleman about his question, I say, what makes you yell at your kids? And going back to investigation and see the deeper roots of his problem of yelling is the fear that he has. And when you explain to him that you have a fear of failure, and you compare your past into present into future, and he stopped doing that. And that's one way to do that. And the other one is someone should be answered by a counter questions. For example, let's say like, if you say like, I'm feeling sad, and if you say like, do you feel sad, rather than asking, do you feel sad, you can say like, why do you feel sad? What makes you feel sad? What do you think that is making you sad, right? This, when you ask a question back, it will make them think. Because the teaching is not something like you packed like a lunchbox and here, eat it, and you're going to understand. It's not like that. The teaching and the learning is always is doing investigation, doing a lot of works, right, to understand. And then there are questions which should be set aside because there are no answers to certain questions, or because the questions are not in the position yet to understand by the answers. There are few questions that Buddha did not answer. There are questions as where the end of the world, about the universe, about the self. These things that once you understand the full teachings of it, it will guide you to some of these things. But some of these things will not find you any answers of what that you need in day-to-day life today. End of the world will not help you to overcome your headache, does it? If it does, then we can find about the end of the world. And some people are very interested. I'm not. I'm just interested about how to get rid of this suffering that I have right at the moment. So that's why some of these questions will come not in a way that rejected. Sometimes you're like, oh, this is a dumb question. No, don't ask this question. Not in that way, but you can say it in a kind. That's why at the beginning I said the kindness is very important when it comes to. Because some people ask these questions because of lack of understanding they have. And sometimes they have these questions they ask because that's the only way to overcome, and they come to that conclusion. So that's why it is important. The other one, quality of a teacher. This is something I will speak at the right time, not the wrong time. This is one of the most important things. Because we always want to talk, very few want to listen, right? That's why whoever created us, imagine whoever created us gave you 2 mouths and 1 ear. Now if just having 1 mouth and 2 ears have enough problems, right? So that's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Say listen more, talk less. Because when you talk, you are going to talk about things that you already know. When you listen, you may sometimes listen to something that you may not know. That's why listening is so important. Now actually it need to add not just talking, something about your fingers. People don't talk anymore, they text and post things on Facebook, whatever, right? And you have to control your fingers now before you post something. Back in the days you can say something and say like I didn't say it, but when it comes to the social media you cannot say I didn't post it because it's already there, even after you delete it. So you have to be really careful. And the other thing is, it is very difficult for oneself to be quiet when you know something and you always want to speak. That's something. Listening is very difficult thing to do. And also I will speak about what reality is not about what is not. Because this is one of the things. This is our suffering is not to see the reality as it is, but we see the world the way we would like to see it. We would like to experience it. And when that does not match with our expectation, here comes the suffering. And then even though sometimes the things that you will explain to somebody might be difficult, but always tell the truth. And I will speak with gentleness, not with harshness. That's also important. Sometimes people can ask you annoying questions. Sometimes you might have a difficult day, right? Sometimes you will have a difficult day, but you still have to go teach somebody. But you don't want to take all your garbage into the teachings of someone else, right? And then having this calmness in yours, within yourself, because you're projecting that to the others. This is why learning ourselves is the most important thing. All these qualities are going to come to you once you learn by yourself, not try to become a teacher. And I will speak with the mind and the heart filled with love, not with ill will. So the teaching is always comes with compassion and love. That's the most important thing. So I will tell you one story. The Buddhist teachings, as I tell you, teacher is somebody, has to be not somebody who work in front of the kids, in front of the students, whoever you're teaching. Teacher is not somebody should be walk behind the students. Teacher is somebody should be walk with the students. You understand this? Because if you walk in front of them, that means you are higher than them. They will be afraid to approach to you, ask anything. That's why be kind and gentle and approachable. That's the one quality that everybody should have. But if you don't have this quality, that somebody feel afraid to approachable, then you have this high, you put this, you are in a higher place, and the people feel afraid to approach you. And then if you're not confident with your teachings, and then also the people who learn from you feel afraid, not confident to come and ask you a question, because they know that you don't know. They know that there is no better answer that you can get from them, right? But if you walk with them, they feel confidence, that they feel like you are in the same level. They feel like, I can approach this man, I can approach this woman, I can approach her, I can talk to him, I can ask these questions. Sometime when people come to us when we teach, there are places that they cannot go. They cannot talk to their husband, they cannot talk to their wife, they cannot talk to their parents. And the only outlet they may have is you as a teacher. And if they feel comfortable that approaching you and talking to you, that they feel like, okay, I know that when I go to this so and so, I know she's going to be compassionate and loving to me. I know she's going to give me the right answer. I know she's going to tell me the truth. And building that relationship with your students is one of the most important things, that they feel like, I feel really comfortable with this, right? Only way to do this is changing your mind. I tell you a little story before I finish. The one day, there was this, you probably think all the stories I have about mouse. This is about mouse too. There was a mouse that came out from a little tunnel, and he was trying to take some food, right? He came out. And soon after he came out, he saw a cat. He saw a cat, and then he ran back to his nest, whatever, the underground hole. And there's this high, let's say like a living beings, or God or something, let's just say, he saw this poor mouse, and he's like, oh, this poor mouse is so hungry, and he want to get something, right? And he said, he called the mouse, and he said, what happened? Why did you? Oh, I saw the cat. I was so afraid, so I ran back. And the mouse, okay, I can help you. I will turn you into a cat. And what that he did was turn into this mouse into a cat. And now this mouse is a cat. Now he came out to go get food, and then he saw a cat again, and then he ran back. And then this guy went and asked him, what happened? Oh, I saw the cat, and I was afraid. I ran back. And he said, okay, I can help you. And then he turned this mouse. Now a mouse is a cat. Now he turned this cat into a dog. And then the dog came out here and went to go get food. see the cat again and ran back again. It's a dog, but it ran back again, went to the hole again. And then whoever helping came and he said, what's wrong? Oh, I went to get food, I saw the cat again, I was so afraid. And then he said, okay, I can help you, this is the best I can do, I'm going to turn you into a lion. And then he turned him to a lion. And then he came out from this mouse, right? Now he's a lion. He came out from this hole and went to get his food, and he saw the cat again, and he ran back again. You know, you can change the body as much as you want if you don't change the mind. Even in the lion's body is a mouse mind. So the teaching is not to change the body, to change the mind. No matter what shape, what form, where, what positions you are in, if you do not change the mind, no matter what you do, you're still afraid like that mouse and you're going back to the hole again. Don't be that mouse. So the teaching is always about changing our mindset. So once we change that mindset and we trying to apply this and to help someone else. When it comes to help someone else, as I mentioned, the most important thing is your practice, right? That's the most important. In the Buddhist teaching in Pali called Attanang Upamankatva, it says, take you as an example. Do not teach others if you cannot do something. Teach others what you are practicing. That's why it's called teacher, preacher, and a spiritual teacher. That's the difference. You can preach, right? You can preach. That's why kids say, Mom, stop preaching. Because Mom yell and say, like, don't get mad, but she's mad all the time, right? The kids say, Mom, don't preach me. And then there comes the teachers. They know all the methods and techniques and all that, and and they can teach you. And there comes the spiritual teacher. Spiritual teacher is quite different because he has these teachings in him. That's why it's spiritual. That practice is, that teacher is the practice, and that practitioner is teaching somebody. That's the difference. So you want to be a spiritual teacher, not a teacher, not a preacher. Spiritual teacher. That has to come in from the heart. That has to come in from your own practice. Okay? So now it's time if you have any questions. We have a little time. Any questions? No question means you understood everything or you didn't understand anything. Second one, right? Yeah.